Well, I used to work in schools and in preschools, and every day I had to say, "Good job tying your shoes. Good job going to the potty. Good job not talking while I'm talking. Good job raising your hand." All day, every day, we would give constant encouragement to the children, especially when they did something on their own. There's something in us as Americans that we really want to encourage independence. And when kids are young, we start very young saying, "Good job doing that all by yourself." We want them to have self-sufficiency. We want them to be independent. But the problem with that sometimes for us is that we're not taught then to ask for help. We're not taught anymore that it's okay to want a team approach to something or to help and ask someone nearby for help. Instead, we talk to the kids and say, "Good job not asking for help," right? Good job doing it on your own. There's somewhere in that moment in childhood where we switch from "good job asking for help" to, "Well, now you don't need any help anymore. So good job being independent." And then we encourage a pride. Good job, have pride in yourself for doing it all by myself. And then there's a time when you start to hear the kids say, "all by myself." And there's a flaw in this system because God did not create us to be all by ourselves. God not only created us to be in relationship with one another, but God created us to be in relationship with God. And so what happens when we start getting this thinking of all by myself as we get older and we get that paycheck coming, we're like, "Look what I did all by myself." When we start to buy houses and cars or rent apartments, "Look what I did all by myself." I even think about our college years. We get a diploma. Did any of us do any of that all by ourselves? With our name on it on the wall? It's the professors. It's the group study projects. It's the friends and the tutors. It's mom and dad. It's friends all around us. But yet at the end of it all, we say, look what I did all by myself. And we put our names on the wall with that degree. But this independence can separate us from the very relationships and community that God has given us to thrive. "I did it by myself" becomes an attitude of, "I don't need anybody else." It's not wrong to be independent, but it is wrong to not give thanks to God for what God has done for us. And we get to this point in our lives where we don't give thanks to God for every little thing because we have thought to ourselves that we've done it all by myself. I think about this when I watch the Oscars or one of those movies or TV program where they give you all these awards. And this person comes up with this big shiny award and they only have a minute or so to thank everybody on the list. And they always forget something. And we all laugh because we know no one can make a movie alone. But yet we think we can have a life alone, independent, doing it all on our own. There's nothing wrong with celebrating, but there is something wrong when we take the credit for everything that we've done. In the scripture today, Paul is talking about generosity. He encourages these new followers to give what is in their heart, and he says to do it cheerfully. He talks about God who has more than enough. I want you to remember that today. More than enough grace to go around for everyone. No matter what your contribution is to the team, be it small or huge, God will provide for you, he says. God has more than enough grace. But we tend to live in a not enough world. There's not enough to go around. I need to be first in line to make sure I get the seat. I need to be the first one to get in line for food to make sure that I get all the food. I need to take care of myself. I thought about it when watching this beautiful video of these residents at Heart Haven that Lisa brought to us. Can you imagine if those parents had never asked for help? Can you imagine if those residents had never asked for help? And look at the beautiful community that has been created just because one family said, we need help. That is a mindset of there's more than enough grace to go around. There's more than enough mercy and love to go around. And God brings it to us through us. I want you to look to the person on your left or your right or behind you for a second. Those are the hands and the hearts that God has given you, just a few of them, to provide for you. You know, God always supplies, and Paul says, because of God, we will always have everything we need. He confidently says that God is the one who supplies seeds for planting and bread for eating. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole scientific thing of this, but do you understand? You got to plant the seed to get to the bread. But a lot of us start to say, well, I'm the one that put that seed in the ground, so that bread on the table is mine. I earned it. Some of you might be thinking, you know, when we see this bounty before us, we just are so proud. And is there anything wrong with being proud? No. There's nothing wrong with being proud of what we make with our own hands and what we do with our intellect and how we share our time. But there is something wrong when we take all the credit for it, thinking that it was just us. Some of you might be thinking that's all great and good, but who really does put the food on my table? Well, again, the answer may be right next to you. Or, as we learned in COVID through the supply chain, there's a lot of hands that put that food on the table for us. And we are thankful. Recently, I was talking to one of our food pantry partners, and they told me that one of the recipients was a single mom with a few children. And she has a good job, but it's not enough to make ends meet. And so she simply told the food pantry volunteer that she was so thankful for the food pantry because it made ends meet. Now, do you know what that means? That what she said was, I'm so thankful for the food pantry. You are the food pantry. We are the food pantries. When we give of our time and our food and our resources, we are the hands that she is giving thanks for. And it all comes through God's mighty hand. She is thankful for the help that she receives. But then some of us who give the help start to get a little proud of all that we've done on our own. Sometimes our pride and self-sufficiency blinds us to God who is supplying all of our needs. This is not my quote, but I want you to remember this. This has stuck with me all this week. In the Christian life, everything proceeds from God's generosity and everything returns with thanksgiving. In the Christian life, everything proceeds from God's generosity and everything returns with thanksgiving. So it is part of a recycled loop that God has intended, that all good things come from God. Our bounty, our blessings, our hands are full. And then with that full hands and heart, we return to our neighbors. Food and friendship, help, a ride to the doctor, a good ear to listen to someone's problems, a hug, all the things we return to love our neighbors. And then that neighbor says, oh, that feels good. I'm so thankful to God. And it all goes in a circle. God gives to us, we give to each other, and God receives thanksgiving. It seems like a pretty simple formula, right? But we get stuck in the, I don't know, I don't really want to ask for help. I don't want to bother anyone. We're not bothering people when we ask for help. We are giving them the opportunity to respond to Jesus' words, to love thy neighbor. This week I was visiting with a friend in the hospital, and she is a caregiver, but she can't give care right now. She'll be in the hospital for several weeks with some injuries and muscle issues and bone issues and things like that. And she just keeps trying to go home. because she says, the person I love at home needs help. And I said, well, the person you love at home has someone at home to take care of them. Oh, but they can't take care of them as good as I can. And I said, well, have you ever given him the opportunity? And she said, what? And I said, maybe this is your time to be the one receiving the love, receiving the help. And this is their time to be the one giving to someone else. Yeah, maybe they don't make that sandwich exactly the way you make it, or they don't put exactly the right amount of cream in the coffee. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. Maybe this is their time to be giving as you have received and you have given. And she thought about that for a moment and she said, okay, so he's okay, but I just still don't want to be here. Well, think about this then, I said. Who are you blessing by being here? And she said, I'm not blessing anybody. I'm just laying in a bed doing nothing. And I said, I see a whole bunch of cards around your room. Who are all those folks? Well, those are just folks that came to see me and say that they missed me. And oh, those are folks that I've helped. And now they've come to help me. And then this bright, cheerful nurse came in and said, it's good to see you again. I love having bright and cheerful patients. Do you understand, as I started to point out to her, that sometimes we have to be the ones receiving so that somebody else can give? And that is a hard thing for us to understand. I'm looking at the chair of our missions, and he's one that has to hear this too, because he's the chief of giving in our missions. But if folks don't receive the mission, then none of us can love our neighbors. You know, this friend of ours in the hospital, I sometimes wonder if she has the same 24 hours in a day that we have. Because when she is not in the hospital, she is always giving, always doing for others. But we all do have the same 24 hours in a day. And so I think I helped her see that at the root of her issue wasn't just that she wanted to be out, but it goes deeper than that. She didn't trust anyone else to take as good care of what she takes care of, as well as her. She didn't trust that anybody could care as much as she did. And do you see, if you look really deeply at that lack of trust, you start to understand that our pride keeps us from seeing that God is providing, that God is more than enough, that God is giving more than we can ever imagine. And someone steps up because they feel led by the Spirit. They may not call it the Spirit, that nudge. They may call it love. They may call it time. They may call it, well, it's just what I got to do. But always someone steps forward because God has called us to give and to receive, to be in mission to one another. So think for a moment about your life. Where is some place that you could use some help? Is there someone that can pray for you? We'll have that during communion. You can go to the prayer corner and pray with someone. Is there someone that can make a meal for you when you're sick? Is there someone that can listen to you when you just need someone to talk to? Where do you need help? And why are you not asking for it? We all need help sometime. And God has given us this community and our community of friends and coworkers so that we can be in service to one another. I told our friend in the hospital that she could rest assured that God was providing for her people. And so with that understanding, she had something to do again. She said, well, I guess I can pray for that, right? There you go. You're serving once again, even though you're laying still. You know, how God gives and what God gives, it's all a mystery to us. But as Jesus said in the scriptures, we can look around and see that the birds are fed more than enough. So why do we worry that our needs will not be taken care of? God's generous love is all around us. In fact, as I said, it's in the person right next to you. And self-sufficiency is all well and good until practicing it makes us forget that Jesus is Lord.